Welcome back, everyone, to the Founders Only podcast. I am so excited today to welcome Jason Kraus. Jason is the founder and CEO of Prepare for VC, a platform dedicated to empowering startups and guiding founders towards success. He's a keynote speaker and a mentor and has inspired audiences at conferences and pitch competitions while sharing insights on startup growth and fundraising. As an investor, Jason has supported over 20 diverse ventures, reflecting his commitment to fostering innovation. He is also the author of Venture Forward, a collection of stories showcasing the resilience and triumphs of successful entrepreneurs. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Mia. It's great to be here. Excited for the podcast and great to meet the community here. Really excited to be a part of this.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So my first question for you is, can you share your journey to becoming the founder of Prepare for VC?
Sure. Yeah, basically, I've always been entrepreneurial, was in middle school, was selling baseball cards to friends in school. And, through in college, I was working on I went to school in upstate New York where it was really cold in the winters, and was working with some friends on building an app to try to figure out what was going on at night and if it was worth the trek downtown. It was called Night Owl. Without, basically see what was going on without having to go out and find out ourselves first. Those were all great learning experiences. Led me into went to a grad program on entrepreneurial leadership at Babson in Boston area, and then I was thinking before that time going more in undergrad, or went to Colgate. Thought I was going more the investment, wealth management type of route, but got even more excited about entrepreneurship and saw the crossover with finance as I was got an opportunity to intern with a local angel group here in Boston, the Boston Harbor Angels, and kind of see their whole process of how meetings went, what excited them in deals and what they pushed back on, things that might be a good business but weren't necessarily a good business for the investors, and
Right.
How that whole process went. Got involved in the venture capital fund with an alumni, and learned a lot through kind of being that first it was more of an analyst role, being that first one reviewing all the pitch decks that came in and all the deals to figure out what went on and what moved on to the other teams there. So that's when I started. One of my current partners, our COO, Steve at Prepare for VC, he likes to joke that the first couple of years of Prepare for VC were Jason as a service. It was basically kind of, it started more as part-time, side hustle of me going out, helping startups build better pitch decks and figure out what their fundraising strategies were, and doing everything from direct outreach to projects on Upwork and other freelance platforms to kind of build up the initial portfolio, be able to show people what we were doing. Did another I was doing building that on one side and co-founding another fintech venture in the crowdfunding space early on there too. And then around 2020 is when decided I was going to take this full-time, really run with it, and expanded our team. We started doing cohort-based programming as well. That became our breakthrough accelerator program. So now we run a 8 to 12 week virtual accelerator, and then the last 3 programs we've done, we've also added an in-person week at the end of the program where everybody comes to Boston. We do a big pitch event and other networking, like happy hours and things around the week for them to, really get their startup out there, meet investors, meet partners, and meet, anybody that can help support. And, through that whole time, I've been a startup grand chapter director for the Boston events. Love working with the community, kind of bringing in different speakers and mentors, and helping everybody figure out what resources are out there. And because there's a lot of great resources, and sometimes it can be overwhelming and you don't know where to turn. So want to be that like go-to point to figure out like what are you actually stuck with and who can help you.
Wonderful. You mentioned Babson, and I'm quite familiar with Babson because I went through the Goldman Sachs 10KSB program, which
Oh,
was
right.
developed by Babson. And apparently, Babson is like the best entrepreneurial leadership or entrepreneurship academic program that there is. So, how did you end up at Babson? I'm curious.
Yeah,
How did you
I
get
was applying. Yeah, I was applying to different programs, and I think what stood out the most there, and was a really great experience, was like it's very very hands on. A lot of group work, kind of more real world experiences you get in the classroom. We had a year long, like we had more traditional business classes. We had like marketing, accounting, finance, and stuff. But then we also had a year long entrepreneurship program where everybody was split into teams, and you had to go through the whole process of starting a business or getting something to like a final business plan and presentation you would pitch at the end of the program. And then we had other like consulting projects in our marketing class, and a lot of group work with like some real companies we were meeting and interacting with and figuring out how we could help them. So yeah, that really attracted me to it, and it was also something where I learned like entrepreneurship. Um, a lot of times we think about it as how are you the founder and how do you go start something, but it also applies to kind of more entrepreneurial thinking within other businesses. And so yeah, it was interesting to see the different routes everybody took, and some people started their own companies, some people joined other ventures, some people still like went the corporate route, but had kind of had that entrepreneurial way of thinking that they applied to different projects, and were able to lead teams more effectively there too.
before Jason was an entrepreneur? Who was Jason? Like, I want to go back to when you were a kid. What type of things did you like to do? Where did you grow up? What did your parents do? How did entrepreneurship even become a possibility for you?
Yeah, I think I kind of grew up around more of the entrepreneurial spirit as well. Like my dad ran his own real estate investment company and like property management business. My grandfathers both had their own businesses too. One in the printing industry, back when people got everything printed,
Mhm.
um, and the other one kind of did everything from like a chemical business to a liquor store, and like tried to build a bunch of things together until everything clicked. And so yeah, I always kind of saw you know what's possible running your own company, but then never really thought, um, for some reason still kind of thought like you go to college, you get a job, there's like a pathway that everybody kind of has to take. And yeah, it didn't really, maybe I didn't know that these other, or owning your own business was like what entrepreneurs, or part of what the entrepreneurial journey was. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think it kind of clicked later on once I was like in the middle of things that you know this is what all my family had done in the past, and kind of related it to what I grew up around as well. Grew up in like a small town in Massachusetts, kind of halfway between Boston and Providence. And yeah, it was always like, I don't, yeah, it really into sports, big Patriots fan, which was a good time for a while, growing up. But, yeah. And then I don't know, still really close friends with a lot of my like elementary, middle, and high school friends. So like, yeah, we have a group I still go, every year. There's 10 of us. We have a fantasy football league together, and we do a draft trip where we go to a different city and
Oh,
spend a weekend together and
cool.
do our draft.
That's super cool. Wow. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I think where the entrepreneurship piece might tie into is like, I was always somebody whenever we're playing a game, or, whether it's a board game or like, I don't know, something, some other fun activity. I'd be thinking, okay, like, what can we do differently? Like, how do we make a new game out of it? And maybe it was because I didn't like reading the rules, but also it was just kind of, fun to make something else up and figure out, what we could do even better there.
Okay. Okay. So, looking back on your journey as an investor, a founder, a mentor, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment?
Yeah, I think what excites me, even after like working with startups, or having invested in companies, is seeing seeing like the results in action. So like, anytime, whether it's a LinkedIn post or a press release or article that comes out, or a founder sending an update and getting to see everything they've actually accomplished, it's really exciting, and makes me proud to have been involved in that business and help them on their journey. And yeah, so, and then also, like, we've had plenty of companies now that like, they've been startups I was advising 3-4 years ago, and now we did, like, we ran the local startup World Cup competition in Boston, a few months back. And one of the companies that went through our program, we had a whole panel of investor judges, and one of the companies that I previously worked with ended up winning our local competition. And that was really exciting to kind of see like where they started, where they are now, and now they're kind of, yeah, expanding and making great progress there. So yeah, I get excited about, all the companies we worked with, all the people that put in all the really hard work, and seeing it pay off.
How did you come to write the book?
Yeah, that was something, I went through. It's kind of like an accelerator for authors. It was a group of about 8 of us that were all writing a book at the same time. We worked with a publishing, like, it was a self-publishing group where, they provide editors and resources, and then it goes up on your own Amazon publishing account, and Amazon will like send out all the books whenever but somebody buys it, and you have your own author account on there. So yeah, it was really cool to kind of learn that whole process, and figure out, basically, how to reorganize everything, and um, into chapters that made sense, and compile, like, it was a mix of personal stories through startups I was involved in, companies I had either interviewed or done fireside chats with, through Startup Grind and other channels. And yeah, also like some research too on, some of the bigger like success stories or pivots and failures, and
Mm-hmm.
things people could learn from. And the goal was categorizing them at every stage, so you could see, you know, on the ideation topic, how did different companies actually even get started or come up with their ideas, on, the growth trajectory, like what was that moment where they actually figured things out, and the overnight successes weren't really overnight. They actually took
Never
like,
are.
5-6 years to figure out how you're really going to grow. and yeah, give people different stories they can learn from, and figure out like what actually applies to them and their business.
Totally. That's cool. I would like to learn more information about that. I have not heard of that before. An accelerator for authors, self-publishing accelerator. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. No, it was a great experience.
Yeah, you have to tell me more about that offline. As someone who believes in betting on the jockey, what key traits do you look for in a founder?
Sure. Yeah, we actually.
In any capacity.
Yeah. No, this is something where our one of our investment groups. It's called EQX Fund. Basically, we have there's a group of investors we've had through another organization called Equity Venture Partners, that mostly real estate investors that were looking to also break into the VC and angel space. Been a part of that angel group I had mentioned. Like, I started out as an intern and then stuck with through all the venture capital and other roles I've had, called Boston Harbor Angels. So basically, I teamed up with the head of the group, Ziad Muhaber. We started a fund called EQX Fund, and the goal is really, first and foremost, when you're investing, especially at the angel or pre-seed, seed, even into Series A stage, you're first and foremost betting on the jockey and the people behind the business. So yeah, we developed what we call the 5 H's, which are: you need to be humble, hardworking, hungry, honest, and have a sense of humor. And then, we also like to see that we also, value if they've had prior success either in the startup space or in their industry, kind of what's their experience, and, how persistent are they on their venture? And is this something like, if there are challenges, they're not going to give up and they're going to keep pushing and make it successful?
Totally, totally. What are 3 actionable strategies you recommend for startups experiencing stagnation in their growth trajectory? So if they're not seeing any momentum, where should they go back to the drawing board? Where should they look?
Yeah, I think a lot of times we talk about product market fit and focus on the product side. So um, the other side is, you might have developed a great product and a great solution, but you're just pitching the wrong people. And maybe, it can be applied to a different industry, a different sector, or even, you're talking to, like, if it's a B2B company, for example, maybe the person within an organization you've been targeting isn't the right person that cares the most about this. So, kind of figuring out like, what I've actually built, can it help somebody even more than that? That's always a great place to start. Um, and also just making sure, you're getting out there as early as possible, and talking to your customers, getting feedback, talking to the audience, making sure on the other side, you're building something they actually need and want. And there's a lot of stories too. I talk about some of these in the Venture Forward book, where like there were, 5 or 6 or even more like main features that were built into a platform, and
Mm,
people really only cared about like
one.
1 or 2 of them. So yeah, like Instagram, for example, was a it was like a platform to find restaurants, and um,
What?
yeah, like food. It was called Bourbon. Um,
What?
yeah, so it was like, but they had really great photo filters, and people were posting because they had all the filters on there at the beginning, and so they just leaned into that, and that
Wow.
was their only feature at the beginning, and then they built everything else around it. But
Wow. That is really something. So let's talk about this point a little bit more. I've asked some variation of this question, whether it's specifically focused on product market fit or, just ended up in the conversation of how to grow. in some way, how to scale. And the product market fit and even the channels or the customer, the audience, the feedback, those are all have been so greatly discussed. And I was thinking, how much, since you um propose, you have this idea of betting on the jockey, right, in the early stages.
Yeah.
I wonder how many founders ever think to look at themselves.
So that's one thing we've actually been like focusing on within our programs for Prepare for VC too is there's other fits too. There's the founder market fit. Like, are you actually the expert in this industry and sector? And the founder team, like, do you have the same goals that the rest of your team has? Are you trying to build things in different directions? And eventually that's not going to work out. So yeah, and then the product too. Like, are you able to you know talk about the value of it anytime you're going out to customers or investors and really pitch the business in an effective manner? So yeah, there's a lot of the personal traits that come in, and you can be like a great entrepreneur, but also be better off in a different industry and sector if that's not your forte or your expertise. So it's finding something that you have to be super passionate about it, because a lot of you're giving a lot more than if you just had a normal like 9 to 5 job on your company. But you also have to be the person when an investor is looking at this, they're thinking, if I had the same idea, is this the person I'd be hiring as the CEO of the company? And that's kind of how they're also making those investment decisions. Is like, is this the team I want running the business? And then they decide, yes, I'm investing in this team, in this business, or no, like, I'm gonna move on and find the next deal.
Right, right. I have this thought of, there's three things that a business needs. Um, I guess generally these would fall in the tech category, however. But you need a product and you need somebody who can technically build the product. Whether that's a service or a physical, tangible product, you need a subject matter expert who can actually build the product, right? You need somebody in the business, which could be the same person as the person who's building the product, but you need somebody who's going to sell the product and
Yep.
somebody who has some wits about them in some way to be able to do business. They have to have some capacity to do business because, as we know, if they only have the product and they can't bring it to market, then it's dead in the water. And then you need money, right?
Right.
You need money because you can have both of those things, but if you don't have if you don't have the resources to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves, then you're also dead in the water. What do you think about that? Is there anything missing from that equation?
No, I think that's perfect. It's just it's great if you have all of that all at once. If you don't, you have to figure out, as a founder, like, especially if you start out as a solo founder, like, what's the first thing I'm gonna need to find somebody else to help with? And maybe you're doing everything day one and building up to a certain point, but you should already be thinking, who else do I need to bring on, and like what skill sets, whether they're a co-founder, a team member, an advisor, an investor that's giving more than just funding as well.
Mhm.
Look for, like, where do you need to fill in gaps in your own, your own, like, profile as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's this idea of self-awareness too, right? Which is
Right.
what you're talking about. Like, you have to know what you don't know, and you have to know what you know, and you have to know how you're going to either how you're going to fill in the gaps. Is it going to be you? Are you going to take the opportunity? Do you have the capacity to learn what you don't know? Or do you need to bring in somebody else because that's going to make you faster or more nimble or help you innovate faster or something like that? Um, but yeah, I've also had this conversation about like if you're not growing personally, your business will also not grow. You can't truly grow a business and completely not grow personally, right? Do you agree
Right.
with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, on the simplest level, like if you pitch the same company the same way to a hundred different times, it's not going to have the same results as if you like learn from every pitch and make it even better every single time. So, also part of that, like anytime we lead a program, we're also recommending there's going to be a lot you're going to learn and figure out that, yeah, you mentioned the areas and the areas you don't know.
Right.
We want to uncover like what you didn't even know you didn't know before.
Exactly.
So, some of those things you can figure out and implement within, a 10-week period. Others you're going to say, I, need to go much deeper on this, but this is now at least on my roadmap of something, I'm going to learn over the next 6 months or over the next 3 months, or I'm going to figure out who I can bring on that can really, help and supplement what I know in this area.
Definitely, definitely agree with that. As someone who helps startups prepare for venture capital, what are common marketing related gaps you notice in founders' pitch decks?
Yeah. So especially if it's a marketing business, like, a consumer products or something where marketing is first and foremost like how your customers are finding out about you, then the visual elements need to be even more critical than any other company, because that's part of what you're betting on too, is like this team can go out, they can attract people to you know follow them on social media, like buy their products, come, they want to come to their website because it's super engaging and attractive. And so like those actually become even more important elements if it's a core like reason people are buying from you and your business. The Yeah, so definitely the branding itself. On the marketing piece, I think, or on like the way you pitch and present, it's important that it is a different pitch to investors versus to customers. Like your customer doesn't need to know how big the market is. They don't need to know, what your financial trajectory is. They just need to know how this actually helps them and their business, or them individually as a customer. But an investor is basically making, they're betting, or they're making their investment that 5, 6, 7 years from now, you're going to be a much bigger value business and provide a return on their investment. So yeah, kind of shifting the narrative to like it is important that customers want this, they see the value, but that's 20% of the presentation, and the rest is like how this is scalable, sustainable, exciting business, and why they should be a part of it today versus coming back. One of the hardest questions is like why invest today and not wait a year and see how things go, and then make an offer to invest down the road. So yeah, if you can convince investors like the timing is right, the product, the solution, you have the right team behind this, and you're the ones that are going to make this successful. And if you waited, we'd already be a much bigger value company. We're going to do this with or without your investment. Like that's kind of the narrative. We want to hear to see and build that excitement.
Okay, that makes sense. How about from the perspective of brand differentiation and also go-to-market strategy. So if you have a company that has prepared, is pitching, they have the data to say this product is a need, there's a need in the market for this product. We can build this product, or we have built this product, and we have identified and done the research we need to know who exactly needs this product, what that profile looks like. They have all the information, but they don't know how they're going to bring it to market. What are you looking for in terms of a strategy, even if it's not in the pitch deck?
Sure.
You're a prospective investor. You're talking to a new company, early stage company that is perhaps pre-revenue, right? And they have this great idea, but even though the founder desperately wants to do this, they have no idea what to do or how to get it to market. How would you uncover that is a problem, and how would you help them solve it?
Yeah, I think one of the key things is there's different phases of customer adoption. The innovators and early adopters versus the later adopters, and so if we're talking consumer products again, there's people that are buy they'll buy something the first time they see it on TikTok or Instagram. There's somebody that will only buy it if they see all 5-star reviews from 100 plus people on Amazon. And so, like, are you able to find an audience, whatever your business is, are you able to find an audience that is willing to come in early on and that will help you get that traction where you can get some of those later markets? And being able to recognize how you actually reach the right people and who those early markets are, because a lot of businesses can be successful if you're able to show everybody already loves this and you have all the testimonials and feedback, but the hardest point is actually getting to there. So helping founders figure out, like, whose most pressing needs is this right now, and who's going to be willing to take the leap because they don't really have anything that's solving the problems the same way you are. So figuring that out and then figuring out how you expand into those second and third customers, tiers of customers from there.
I love that. I love that. Okay. How do you advise startups to balance creating thought leadership content versus more product focused material when developing their content marketing strategy?
Because you're right, it is a balance. Like, you don't want to be too salesy where every post is like, hey, buy my product, but you also if it's 100% content, then people can think I'm learning a lot from this, but I have no idea what they do and what they're offering. So it's something where you have to find the right balance, and also try different channels. It's hard to be great at everything all at once, but if you figure out, is my core audience, like, is it businesses that are looking at LinkedIn? Is it people is it people looking on Instagram and TikTok, or are they in a Facebook group? And
Right.
Or, like, a lot more community platforms now too. So does it make sense to start a Slack group or WhatsApp group for your early, like, customers and audience? And there's channels like Mighty Networks and other platforms where you can kind of create your own community space. Seen a lot of worked with some companies that had a lot of success kind of built with the building in public movement, like basically posting their journey on X and other LinkedIn and stuff, and showing people, like, hey, we're building something really exciting. This is what we did this week. Do you want to be a part of it too? And so, you got to find out what works well for you and your business. And it's and can be blogs and other content too, but it's hard to do all of that with a small growing team all at once. So kind of lean in one area and see if it works, and if it doesn't, that's when you can try that second or third channel. But go all in one direction as part of your marketing, and then keep trying new things.
How do you specifically approach this problem for your business?
Yeah. So we do a mix like of blogs, newsletters. We've started using a tool called Market, more on the event side, but it's a text messaging platform where people can sign up for event updates, or kind of like a text-based newsletter, but like short form. This is what's happening this week, or this is an accelerator deadline that's coming up, like apply today. And a lot more on LinkedIn for us, because mostly working with businesses and investors, and that's kind of the biggest focus. So different kind of lean more into the mix of the thought leadership, like post on different topics startups are asking about, try to engage and build conversation in the content, in the comments, and then also make sure we're also promoting like anything that's coming up that we want people to engage in and be a part of as well.
You have a decent LinkedIn following. What do you think you've done to get there?
Different people have different strategies there. Mine was, at first, like when I was trying to get into the venture capital space, I wanted to connect and learn from as many people as possible. So basically I would send out a connection request with a message, and I'm a graduating student. I want to learn, do you have time for a 20-minute conversation? And reached out to as many people in the VC space as I could. So that's kind of where I started, was like just realizing that if you have a small ask, people are willing to spend 20 minutes of their time. And was able to find a lot of great people on LinkedIn. And then now it's been, anytime I go to an event, like usually the first thing people say is, can we connect on LinkedIn? There's the easy like QR code scanning system there. And so a lot of it's people I've met throughout the years, or anytime we're meeting with a new company, always like to add them on LinkedIn and kind of follow each other as well. And then keeping updated with content too. And it's because a lot of times in conversations, somebody will be like, I'll be on a Zoom call with somebody, and they'll reference something I posted like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh well, it's great that you saw that and liked it. And it's always a good like conversation starter as well.
Meet Brandy, your all-in-one content creation sidekick designed to make creating and managing your brand's content effortless. Let me show you how it works. Got a team? Bring them in. With Brandy, everyone can pitch in to create content that clicks. Managing multiple brands? Easily switch between profiles so you're always ready for the next project. The Brand Voice Analyzer ensures your content always sounds like you. Stuck on where to start? Check out our handy prompt templates. They're like creative jumpstarts to get things moving. Every edit, every version saved. With content revision history, nothing gets lost, and you can always pick up right where you left off. Everything your brand needs, it's all right here in your brand asset library. Stay organized like a pro with custom folders for every project. No more hunting for that one file. Brandy does too, and is ready to help you connect. Or in any language, really. Speak to your audience in the words they know best. Need ideas or have questions? Just ask Brandy. Save time with custom snippets. Your most used phrases, always handy when you need them. Keep your notes, links, and ideas in one spot so you're never hunting for that one piece of inspiration. Get personalized content tips and SEO strategies to help your brand stand out online. Join Brandy today and make your content creation smarter, faster, and better. Let's create something amazing.
How do you specifically come up with what you're going to post? And how often do you actually even attempt to post on LinkedIn? Like, do you post daily? Do you post weekly? Do you have a time frame that you post in any, recurring basis? And then when you do that, how are you deciding what to post? You mentioned a few minutes ago that you post things that startups ask you. So is that a formal part of your editorial planning, that you go look at recent conversations you've had or recent questions you've been asked or something that's come up in an accelerator? How do you even know what to post?
Yeah, so we have two channel, like there's the company LinkedIn page and then my personal page. So the company one is usually, it's a mix of updates from startups we've worked with, like kind of resharing any good news that they've had. It's any highlights or lessons, like if we've a lot of times it'll be like, hey, this is what we talked about this week in the accelerator program. Here's some lessons for the community. Some more of that content piece. Sometimes it's things from our mentors that they've posted and we're resharing as well. And then any clips, like if we're doing a pitch event or, have other videos and content from those. On my personal one, it's, usually I try to do a dedicated, like kind of new topic at least once a week on, something I don't think is talked about enough on, it can be anything from, managing or figuring out your competition in your company to like pitching tips and, different strategies or, something that's come up multiple times in a week and different meetings, I'll like feature and talk about on there too. And then, resharing some of the company posts, our own posts or posts from other people and engaging in the comments as well.
Okay. So content is often about storytelling, as exampled by what you just said. Some of the things that you post, you're telling stories or you're sharing other stories, right? So how do you ensure that your brand's voice stays authentic and resonates with your ICP and the target audience that you are looking at, which sounds like is basically early stage companies and founders, right?
It is. Yeah. So I think one of the things that's the most helpful is developing personas for your audience. So, we developed three we call the hesitant dreamer, the active seeker, and the prime opportunist. And like the, dreamer is kind of more, they've been working on their idea for a while, but not quite sure if they're ready to take the leap into the next program. They need to get to know group a little bit more and, maybe try out some community events and engage a little bit before they move into the next opportunity. Active seeker is like they're exploring, they have something really specific they want to learn and develop. They might say, I need to get ready for, in the next year, in the next 3 months, I need to start my pre-seed round and I've, made this amount of traction and need to get to that point. And so they're actually looking, for an accelerator or somebody else that can help them and support them with those problems and opportunities. And then the prime opportunist is like somebody that has even more traction or validation, and they have a lot of places they're like that are trying to recruit them in, or they have a lot of options, and they need help filtering down what's actually best for them right now and what the best, one next step they can take is. And so, having different marketing and messaging that goes out to them, but also having different ways of leading that initial conversation depending on who it is we're working with, and the stage and the profile of the founder, and being able to figure out how we can best support them.
One of the things that I have, I guess, a tactic that we've implemented that has worked really well for us around personas has been identifying someone on LinkedIn that fits your persona to make it a real person. And that person is who you really write for in that for that persona, or how you develop the content for that person. So first of all, I love your personas. I think they're great. I think that I love not only that you kind of came up with these accurate names to explain what type of personality they really have as they approach their business. But if you found, or if you know specific people who fit into those three personas, do you think that would help you adopting that tactic specifically to kind of add that realness, if you will, even further to your content and your approach to creating a content strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's something I'd say we probably subconsciously think about, is like, okay, which of the founders, we've worked with or met, like, fit this profile. But, kind of having that, like, core piece says, hey, this is the person, like, let's narrow it down even further. This is the person we're marketing to, and, that fits in each of these buckets, I think is a great idea, and, great resource.
Another thing that we recently actually are doing in our own company in the agency Creative Analytics is to actually create our own persona. What I mean by that is taking our brand personality, our brand strategy to the level of actually codifying it into a person, like an entity. Like, what are the characteristics? So it wouldn't be that you wouldn't use the same template, right? You wouldn't be like, okay, creative analytics is a 35-year-old man who makes 100,000. Like, no,
Yeah.
It's more about the tone of voice, the personality, the cultural characteristics, to basically really embody what that brand is, to know, okay, this specific entity, how would this entity respond to this situation? How would they respond to a vendor? How would they respond to a customer in any given situation? How would they treat their team members, their internal team members, right? As the person. To me, it helps. And this is not something I would necessarily suggest for an early stage company, right? This is for more of an established company that has already not only built their culture, but is beyond the aspirational side of things. Because from my perspective, when you first start a company, if you are super intentional about building something long term, and you have a clear mission and a clear vision and a clear set of core values, what I find is for the first several years, that is completely aspirational. Like, you really don't know what your brand will be. It
Right.
takes those steps and those experiences and the team and really seeing, like, are the core values that I thought I wanted, for example, are those really the core values that I want? Am I able, are the people that really support the business internally or externally, the customers, the vendors, the internal team, do they actually represent these core values? Because if I love my vendors, my customers, my team, but maybe some of the core values that I aspirationally chose aren't represented in this group, but instead there's this other set of values that is shared between my customers and so forth and so on. Now, okay, maybe this is really who this brand is. You know what I mean? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like that. I like that strategy a lot because, yeah, I mean, it's the most exciting when you're sharing those values with your customers, and and yeah, I like the idea of personifying your company as well, because I mean it is a business, but there's people that are running it, and people that are going to be the ones that are meeting the other people in businesses. So yeah, I think that's great for every company to do, and it also helps figure out, like I said, there can be conflicting values you're trying to figure out too. So like for us, we want to be approachable and exclusive, where like people want to apply and get into our programs, but balancing how you can do both of those at the same time can be a challenge, but it's also something where you can also lean in and figure out, like, okay, how do we make our community and our office hours and everything, like, free and open and available, so we get to meet everybody, and also how do we make our accelerator even more prestigious, where like people are waiting for the next applications to open, and ready to apply day one there. So yeah, I think the more you think about these, the easier it is for the team to get on the same page, and everybody to kind of move forward together.
Totally. So what is one book, podcast, or resource that has profoundly impacted your perspective and mindset as a founder?
Yeah, I really liked the Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and like putting that purpose and the values, kind of like what we were just talking about, putting those first and foremost anytime you're building something. And then, yeah, actually I listened to, it's a good mix. Like there's a lot of business books I listen to, and then I'll also switch things up with more like sci-fi. Like I listened to the Ready Player One, and it was kind of cool to see, these aren't that far-fetched anymore. Like all these technologies are coming out, and seeing what seemed like a crazy dream 20 years ago was actually something that's possible today. So yeah, I like to mix things up between like fiction, nonfiction, a lot of business books, and see who else I can learn from that might have a different perspective on things.
But what's that one book or resource that has helped has changed your mindset? That one book you read that was just like, wow, I'm looking at my business through a whole new lens now. Or I'm looking at myself as a founder through a whole new lens now. Has there been one? It's hard to pick one, I know.
Yeah, hard to pick one. Yeah, I mean, I think the one I probably dug into the most, because they had great book, and he also has a course people can enroll in, Venture Deals, by Brad Feld. Yeah, so that it's great. Kind of, I read it early on, like as I was getting more into the industry, and kind of gives one of the I'd say like the investor's perspective on how you should be building a startup, and how people are what the mindset is. It's not just, is your company a good investment or not? It's you're in a pipeline with 5,000 other deals. How do you stand out enough to get to the next meeting and keep going down that process? And that's a lot of kind of what we focus on teaching startups now too, is hey, it doesn't mean if you don't get a second meeting, it doesn't mean you're not an exciting venture. It means you're competing in this market against all the other startups, and you need to do something where if an investor is going to spend less than 3 minutes on your deck, less time on that reading your initial email to figure out if they're going to move on. Like, how else can you engage with them, or how do you stand out right away? And, it's probably a lot of what you focus on the marketing and branding side there too, is, making sure, your message pops and you're able to get in the door and have that conversation where you can talk and, have a deeper, like, meaningful conversation there.
Okay. Where can people find you on social media?
Sure. LinkedIn, I'm on all the, Instagram,
By your name?
TikTok.
Or
Oh yeah, most on LinkedIn it's Jason Kraus, but the ending is J Kraus 23. Um, Same with on all the channels, it's either J Kraus 23 or Jason Kraus 23. Instagram, TikTok, whatever, Facebook. But yeah, happy to connect. Easiest is connecting on LinkedIn.
okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks everybody else for joining us today. So I hope that this conversation was as enlightening for you as it was for me, and we'll see you next time. Bye.